Today I'm going to share with you 21 important lessons that I've learned while generating over $3.5 million in revenue with my marketing agencies in just 6 years. And I've done this without ever having more than 2 full-time employees as of May 2025. If you don't know me, my name is John Doherty. I'm the founder and CEO of EditorNinja, which is a content editing and writing business that edits hundreds of thousands of words of content every single month. Before EditorNinja, I had a lead generation agency called Credo, did lead generation before it was cool. I sold that business in September of 2022. Well, I did SEO professionally for many years leading up to that, and while growing that business, I'm now growing EditorNinja into an industry leader. I hope with these lessons that some of them are going to inspire you, some of them might annoy you, they might break your brain a little bit, and some are going to help you build a successful agency even faster than I have because you've learned from the lessons and the mistakes that I've made. Be sure to stay until the end because there I'm going to share with you my 2 most important lessons. All right, let's get into it. Lesson number 1, getting clients is easy if you're skilled at all in sales and marketing. If you're observing the market, you have a skill that people will pay money for, so they're hiring freelancers, they're hiring agencies to do it for them. It's honestly pretty easy to get your first customers. Just price yourself low enough, say yes to enough clients, and you can get people to say yes. Congratulations, you have a business. You've learned how to build a website, you've learned how to collect money, you've learned how to deliver a service. That's where everybody starts, and that's awesome. Lesson number 2, scaling a service is much tougher than getting it initial traction. It's easy to get a few clients, but it's much harder to grow a sustainable business beyond yourself and scale it to $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 a month or even higher. The lessons you learn when starting a business are not the ones that you'll need to grow it. You get your first clients by being good at something. You scale a business by being good at business. And these are very different skill sets. And that is the main reason why freelancers often cannot make the jump from being just a freelancer to running an agency that can scale. Number 3, revenue does not equal profit in your pocket. Most freelancers or agency owners start off thinking that if they can just make $100,000 per year, they'll be fine. $100,000 per year in revenue. But the truth is you're probably only gonna be able to pay yourself 40 to 50% of that from the start, maybe a little bit higher if you're running quite lean, and that percentage only goes down as you scale. That said, you can't generate meaningful profits if you don't have meaningful revenue. So build with the end in mind. But I do recommend maximizing for revenue at the start because you can always optimize for profit later once you have a service that is already scaling. It's much, much easier to make a good profit from a large business than from a small one. Number 4, the only thing that matters in an agency or a service business is a scalable way to attract new customers on demand. Real talk, if you can't consistently get new clients, you're going to go out of business slowly and painfully. You always need to be able to at least replace a client who stops with your services. And if you want to grow your monthly revenue, then you need to get new clients every month to outrun churn and add new revenue into the business. I learned this lesson the hard way. The reason I hit a revenue wall with my last agency and ultimately sold it because I experienced true burnout, not just I need a vacation or I need a weekend off, but like true burnout that took me 12 to 24 months to really recover from, was because I couldn't serve everyone who wanted to work with us. It's a lot harder than just hiring more people because we didn't have a consistent way to get new clients. I was running the business prior to the pandemic, and during the pandemic, economics of the business shifted and I didn't realize it. So we lost our consistent way to get new clients. SEO wasn't working as well. Google ads were expensive. We didn't have the profit margin in the business, which is why I talked about profit. Quite simply, we couldn't onboard an agency and know where those leads were going to come from. We had to invest up front, generate the leads, which was leaving money on the table. We were over delivering for people that were already working with us. And then we would hope that the next month's lead volume was the same. And of course, in a B2B business, which is what that business was, things go up and down, seasonality, and it was just a very hard business to run. The 5th lesson is delegate delivery before you delegate marketing or sales. If you're a marketing and sales oriented founder, even if you are not a marketing and sales oriented founder, it is always easiest to grow an agency if you delegate delivery first, even just the admin work, before you delegate marketing and sales. Personally, I tried to delegate marketing and sales too early in my first agency, but the agency grew better and my life significantly improved once I delegated delivery of the service and kept owning marketing and sales myself. Eventually, and because I was aiming to sell it, I was able to get myself out of both marketing and sales using both combination of full-time people, placement services, that sort of thing. And actually, I started EditorNinja while I was still running that business because I had writers and I had people running the strategy, but I was the one doing all the editing and I'm not an editor. So I started the service that ultimately became my business, but don't necessarily recommend that. Focus on one thing at a time, but I got myself out of marketing and sales by hiring smartly. If you're just starting to grow, get help on delivery as soon as you can, and ultimately get out of delivery yourself. I hired EditorNinja's head of operations, who was my executive assistant at my last agency, full-time at around $18,000 a month in revenue. It was a risk, but it's more than paid off because I can just focus on marketing and sales to grow the business, and we've 3-4x since then. Number 6, productize delivery, not pricing. So a lot of people in the agency world like to talk about productization, and they they think about it in terms of pricing and the unlimited model popularized by Design Pickle and that sort of thing. But productization is really all about how you deliver work, not how you price your services. Because every agency, even those doing fully custom work, have a rubric for pricing. Productization is all about delivery and makes it easier to delegate. When you establish processes for everything, it's much easier to do two things. Number one, to teach someone else how to do it. And number two, to hold people accountable for following the process. Without processes, you can't do either of those things, and you're going to get stuck in delivery. Number 7 is get paid up front whenever you can. Cash flow is king in agencies. Yeah, you can take out loans and figure out how to meet payroll if cash is tight, but what if cash was never tight? By getting paid up front at minimum enough to cover your acquisition costs, but having an offer that liquidates your acquisition costs up front and then having a continuation, a monthly recurring revenue on the back end, that is how you're able to self-fund growth pretty easily. With my first agency, at first, we only got paid once an agency made money. So this worked at the start to get things going. I was literally offering to generate leads for free, and then they paid us on the back end. So it was very easy for people to say yes. But within 6 to 7 months, we were honestly getting close to running out of cash. So I switched to a subscription model. Within 3 months, the business was solid. With that business, we went up to about $5,000 a month within the first 3 months, and then it slid down to about $2,000 a month. I launched the subscription service in April of that year, and by October, we were doing 6 figures in annual recurring revenue, ARR, because it was monthly subscriptions, and continued to grow from there. Lesson number 8 is talk to people on the phone. A lot of freelancers and agency owners start with the hope that they won't have to speak with people on the phone, but it's a service business. You're gonna have to speak with people. And the reality is that if you want to grow a decent sized business, even one just in the mid to high 6 figures annually, you're gonna have to speak to people on the phone. Personally, I think that you should try to speak with as many people as possible as soon as possible to hear their objections. This way you can hear the clarifying questions they're asking, work that into your offer, work that into your sales copy. The faster you hear these objections and understand what people really want to buy, the faster you're going to find a service that people really want, and that can grow. Lesson number 9 is quick to buy is quick to churn. So when people ask me about productizing their services, they usually want to know how to package up their work and set a price that someone will just buy without them having to speak with them on the phone, just like point number 8. But in my experience, this one is a pipe dream. And if you find a price that people will pay you without speaking to them, they're also going to be quick to churn. I know one lower ticket productized service that has 20% plus monthly churn. This agency is fortunately phenomenal at marketing, but they're always working hard to simply outrun their churn every single month. And when they looked at their numbers, they found that the vast majority of their profit and growth came from a few larger customers who they talk to consistently, they talk to on sales calls, and they closely interact with. That productized service has actually moved back to doing sales calls instead of the self-serve. So if you start the self-serve, you're pretty quickly going to realize that you need to go up market, you need to talk to people, you probably need a sales-led motion, and you need some sort of account management, lighter touch on the smaller ones, which are still big enough to stick around for long enough and to really get value, and then a much higher touch on the ones who are paying you a lot more. Lesson number 10 is watch your CAC to LTGP closely. So CAC is your customer acquisition cost. Lifetime gross profit is how much you make from an average customer in profit, so revenue minus the cost to deliver the goods. The higher your CAC to LTGP is, the faster you're going to be able to grow, and the more profit you're going to be able to have in your business. You're also going to know how much money you can spend to acquire a new customer, which is a point I'll get to later. Number 11, you're probably losing money on many of your customers. Once you know your CAC, you should look at all of your customers and clients and make sure you're not losing money on some or many of them. It's really not uncommon, especially with smaller production-focused firms, for there to be a low-cost offering where customers actually are unprofitable for you after acquisition costs and after delivery costs are paid. Their need isn't big enough, which is why they're signing up for this small plan. They need to stay for so many months in order to actually be profitable, and you usually can't get them to that point. So it may look good on paper to say, hey, we signed 8 new clients last month, but if you're losing money on many of them, you're just going to go out of business fast. So commit today to only signing on clients whose contract value is at least 3 times your customer acquisition cost. This means you need to be tracking your acquisition costs. But once you're doing that, then you know how much it costs you, and you should only say yes to people who are going to pay you at least 3 times that in gross profit. If you can sign someone who's paying you 5x or 10x or 15x or 20x, you're going to be able to grow a lot faster, you're going to make a lot more money, and you're going to serve much better customers. Lesson number 12 dovetails on number 11. Your lowest paying customers take the most attention when they should take the least. So both of my agencies, both my current one and the one that I sold a few years ago, had lower end offerings. I told myself that we were doing this because there was opportunity there and we could serve more clients by doing it. But what I learned pretty quickly was that low cost offerings should only exist to get them into higher paying offerings, because they're going to need as much attention as your higher paying clients. Tim Ferriss in the 4-Hour Workweek famously learned this as well. He had 90 some clients. He had 3 that were big, had a few that just needed to be fired, and all the rest just took up a bunch of time. And so he actually fired the worst ones, He doubled down on the big ones and put all the other ones on autopilot that if they ordered, great, but they weren't going to chase them at all. And his profits went through the roof, and he went from working like 80 to 100-hour weeks to basically working 20 hours a week. So take that lesson and apply it to your own agency. Lesson number 13 is a client who starts small will almost never become a large client. I may be beating this point to death, but small clients are really worth the effort if you make the majority of your revenue and profit from large deals. Many agency owners will sign on small clients thinking that they're going to become a larger client over time. And I get it. You want to help everybody, right? But the truth is that a $1,000 a month client will almost never, and I'd even go so far as to say absolutely never, become a $50,000 per month client. And if they do grow that fast, are you going to be able to keep up with them? Honestly, they're probably going to go with someone who's used to working with $50,000 per month clients and isn't taking the $1,000 per month clients. So small clients just aren't worth it. Number 14 is trust your numbers. So once you know your CAC to LTGP, trust it, because T stands for lifetime. Depending on how high ticket your offer is, how long someone stays, it can take a little bit of time to recoup your acquisition costs, which is why you should get paid up front, of course. But it might not be possible to recoup all of your acquisition costs in month one. So you're going to need to both watch and trust your numbers. Because if you want to grow fast, you're going to have to spend cash up front and then recoup that cash on the back end. And this can take a little bit of faith that the numbers work, but watch them closely and trust them. Number 15 is keep overhead as low as possible. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I've never had more than 2 full-time employees other than myself in a business. Well, it's possible to understaff and thus constrain growth, and I definitely did that in the past. The quicker business killer is hiring too fast and having too much overhead to be able to sustain your payroll. You're always going to be stressed about making payroll, and there are many studies that show that the more bodies you have in a business, the slower things actually move. So stay lean and move as fast as you can for as long as you can. Number 16, and I got this one from the book Profit First, is build up a balance in the company bank account as soon as you can. Whenever I start a new business, my first marker of success is that we have at least 2 months of expenses in the company bank account. Once we reach that point, then I can breathe more easily, I can pay myself more because I know that one down month isn't going to sink us, and I know I'm going to be able to meet payroll for at least 2 months, even if all of our clients fired us at once. Which brings us to point number 17, which is your clients won't all fire you at once. I remember when I started my first agency, and I'd wake up every morning and just think, today's the day that all of my clients fire me and I no longer have a business, but it probably took me about 3 years to finally develop the confidence to say, no, they are not all going to fire me today. You may at any one time have 1 or 2 clients that are not incredibly happy and may have a client or 2 churn every month, but when you have enough clients, this should be a small percentage, both of your overall book of business and your revenue. Having more clients is the number one way to build a resilient business. Number 18, get as close to your clients as possible. Slack, email, calls, whatever it takes. Earlier, we talked about talking to people on the phone when it comes to sales, but once they're on board, then you need to be talking to them as much as possible. So at EditorNinja, about a year ago, we had a churn issue where clients were coming in, we had self-onboarding, so they never really fully got activated. They didn't have someone specific to go to, and so they were churning out much faster than they should have been. As soon as we put the clients in direct contact with their team on Slack and then consistent check-ins from our accounts team, calls when needed, etc., churn decreased by almost 2/3. So get as close to your clients as you can, communicate with them as much as you can, hear their concerns, answer their concerns, make sure they know that you've heard their concerns, and then actually make good on the changes that you said you're going to make, assuming it is actually a problem and not just a needy client, which happens too. Number 19 is that clients want optionality, not necessarily the specific things that they ask for. Sometimes people will ask you for things like, hey, can you do this part of the process? Or can you do this other marketing channel? The thing is, you don't always have to deliver to them. They just like to know everything that you are capable of doing. Number 20, and this one's super important, is that the more you can deliver the end-to-end solution to your clients, the more successful you're going to be. When you first start an agency, it's common to solve just one part of the workflow because that's probably the one that you've seen that needs a solution. But as you build, you're going to get asked for other parts of the process as well. What you should do over time, though, is aim to build towards delivering all of these as well. To use a marketing example, say you start out just doing technical SEO. You're optimizing websites technically so search engines can crawl them. But over time, you're probably going to be asked to create content for the website. Then you're going to be asked if you can help them get more backlinks, that sort of thing. The lesson is you don't have to meet all of those asks right now, but over time, expanding your services linearly like this is the way to close bigger and more deals. This is exactly why EditorNinja writes content now. We kept being asked for it, and about a year ago, I lost some big deals because we didn't offer writing. So we expanded that offering, and it's now become a major part of our monthly revenue and work. It also drives the editing side. There are also other asks around strategy and administration that we don't offer yet. So that shows you this is a process, right? Another service business example is a lawn care business. So you may start off just mowing lawns, but eventually you're going to be asked for things like weed whacking, bush trimming, power washing, that sort of thing. In the slow months, maybe you come to offer snow plowing and Christmas light hanging and that sort of thing. So you're no longer a lawn care business, you're an outdoor service company. But you start off mowing lawns and then you see what else people need and figure out how to price it and how to staff for it as well. And lesson number 21, which is a super important one that I've touched on a few times here, but I haven't explicitly stated, is that you're always going to leave money on the table, and that is okay. So this applies to the types of services that you offer. It applies to the types of clients that you serve. You don't have to serve everybody who wants to pay you money. And actually, you shouldn't, because some people just aren't going to be a great client for you. And focusing on serving one ideal customer and solving an expensive and particularly tough problem as completely as you can is going to be the quickest and least painful way to grow a good sized agency that can pay you a lot of profit. If you can do this, all of the money you leave on the table isn't going to matter because you've just built a great business. This has been 21 important lessons that I've learned running agencies over the last 10 years and over the last 6 years, generating over $3.5 million in revenue with a small and lean team. I hope this helps you out. Thanks for being here. See y'all next time.